Actually, raise your hand if you're trying to get out of your job and get into real estate more full time. Raise your hand if that's you. Okay, so I want to talk to you right now. I want to talk to you about that. Raise your hand if you're okay with your job, but you'd like to start making some additional money from real estate, earned income, active income. Okay, so that almost covers everyone in the room. So this is the part that I want to address. So now these are just my classifications. There's no like official. Am I freaking out about this? I have had these fall before. This is not, there's no like official definitions. This is just the way that I envision this. You have bird doggers. What is a bird dog? Like in real life. Yeah, so you shoot, I had an international client like, what, you talk about this bird dog, what is this? So you shoot a duck, your dog goes out. In fact, a duck. A duck. Actually, my ex-wife, her dad lives in southern Utah, an avid hunter, and he wanted to have a bonding day with me. So he took me to a pheasant farm. And this guy owns 50 acres in southern Utah. Streams and hills and like it's very little mountain thing on it. And he raises pheasants. And you pre-buy the birds. So we bought like 50 birds that he had raised on the farm. And then he goes out with his bird dogs in the morning. And he hides this one behind a bush here. And he hides this one up here by these rocks. He hides them all over the 50 acres. Now, the birds their wings aren't clipped or anything because you don't want to shoot pheasants on the ground. You want to shoot them in the air. I was learning all this. So he said, yeah, I prepay for 50 birds, and then we're just going to follow his dogs because they know where they're all hiding because the pheasants just sit there. And then we'll give the dogs the command, and the dogs will rush in, and they'll flush the birds out, and we'll shoot them. And I'm like, that sounds not good. Sounds like evil somehow. And he's like, Aaron, if we go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, are you going to feel guilty about eating that bird? Okay, I'm cool with it. He's like, these are farm-raised pheasants. And he said, we will take them all home. So after you kill them, they clean them while you're eating lunch. And then you take the birds home. But they're all like, they look like little tiny chickens. I didn't know that either. So we get out there, and I said, well, how hard can this be? The two dogs, we get to the first bush, and now I had never shot a 12-gauge shotgun before. And and my father-in-law had a repeating 12-gauge shotgun that he could just be like, boo, 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 boo. And he wouldn't give me one because he knew that I had never shot a 12-gauge before. And I didn't realize how much those things kick. And I didn't realize that when the dog flushes the first pheasant out, that your adrenaline goes nuts. You scramble, you pull the gun up, and you put it right in the middle of your chest and pull the trigger. It leaves a huge heel mark bruise for days. And after that first shot, I was so gun shy, I kept flinching and then shooting, like not going inside. So I missed every bird before lunch. And he's like, you get the first shot. I would miss, and then he'd be like, So at lunch, he made me shoot skeets for like an hour to get over my flinch. And in the afternoon, I finally got one, and I was so excited that I finally got a bird. And then when I went over there, it was dead, and I felt sad. Right? And then they had this little vest that I wore that you put the bird in the back of the vest. And that was like grisly because it was like bouncing against me the whole time. And I'm like, I don't know, I liked the adrenaline part, but now I'm not down with the rest of it part. And there was a troop of Boy Scouts that were there. And they got separated. And they shot each other in the crossfires of a bird that went up. So then the Boy Scouts were back at camp getting all a little shot picked out of their heads and arms. I'm like, this is not a hobby for me. So that was the first and last time I went hunting. And now you know what a bird dog is. Those dogs were salivating to go flush the bird out and then pick it up and bring it back. And that's what a real estate bird dog does also. They go out and find deals. They don't shoot the deals, and what would shooting the deal be? Buying it. They find it and bring it back. Bird dog is kind of the lowest profit in the pecking order of real estate acquisitions. They just find. Typically, a bird dog will make anywhere from, I don't know, $500 to $2,500 per deal. I have a friend who, he's an older gentleman. He lives here in Indianapolis. He knows every law firm in town. Knows everyone in the real estate business. And so he's able to get me starting bids on deals sometimes a day or two before the auction even comes up. So he bird dogs deals for me. He's able to find deals from real estate listings, like pocket listings that brokers are about to get before they list them, and he'll bring them to me. He'll find homeowners who are motivated sellers, bring them to me. He just finds the deals, matches me up because he and I trust, and I'll pay him for those deals. Does that make sense? Okay. Questions about bird dogging? I know a guy in Texas who the way that he makes his money is in Dallas, the auction's once a month for the foreclosures, but there can be up to 1,000 properties that come up, and you never know which ones are going to be available that day. He drives all 1,000 of them, takes pictures of each one, makes a couple of notes, uploads it to a website, and then prints off 20 or 30 copies. So the day of the auction, if I'm there buying and there's a deal that I didn't see, I can buy his list and then get his information to decide if I want to buy. Okay? He's a bird dogger to me too. So, you know, you're just kind of like transferring info about deals to make money from them. I've often joked that I'd love to do a reality show where I get dropped off in a city that I've never been to. Like, I've never been to Birmingham, Alabama. Has anybody ever been to Birmingham? Okay, very few of us have. So I always said, drop me off in Birmingham with just my driver's license and see how much money I can make in 12 months. So, you know, I go to the homeless shelter that night and go to the temp agency the first day and then get a cell phone, and one of the first things I start doing is bird dogging deals. Okay? Get your basic necessities in bird dogging. But I really feel like if I started with nothing, after 12 months I could make $250,000 in a year, easy. Maybe up to $1 million with just the knowledge that I have. But one of the things that I would do is bird dog. Because you don't need any cash to get in it. You just have to know one thing: what a good deal is. You have to know what a good deal is. You have to be able to recognize what a good deal is. But not just what a good deal is, it's what a good deal is to your buyer. Because that can be completely different. Understand? So what could be a good deal to me may be a grand slam home run to you, may be not interesting at all to you because you don't even like real estate. See how it changes? So a good deal is, an A+ deal, as I grade them, is very relative to the buyer. That's a mistake that bird doggers make. I know the guy here in town, he sends out this bird dogging list once a week. He sends it, he blind copies me, but he's got hundreds of people he sends it to. He's just shotgunning deals out, hoping that people take them. It's stupid because you have all these different buyers with different desires and wants, and you're not trying to match that up. It's lazy, not stupid, it's lazy. Jake, why don't you come up? Okay, Jake's nickname in our office is Prodigy. Because Jake came out here with nothing but a few $1,000 to live off of, and a college degree, and in 12 months made how much money?
Geez, 150, 170,000.
That deserves a round of applause. Now, I met Jake at an event just like this a few years ago with his dad in California. They were at a weekend to learn how to flip houses. It was flipping houses for the whole weekend. And then Jake and his dad decided to come out to the bus tour. That was like in what, 2009 or 10?
Yeah, 2010.
2010, they decided to come out here for the bus tour, the field training. And Jake came up to me during the weekend and said, you know what, I met a girl. She's way out of my league, super hot. I'm surprised she's even talking to me. In fact, she's here. Dina, why don't you come up? Let's get Dina up here. Everyone's analyzing how hot you are right now. You guys are blushing for her. Told you, right? She's beautiful. So Jake said, can you see why his head was like all in a tizzy? And I said, well, where are you going to school? And he's like,
Reno, Nevada.
University of Nevada, Reno. I said, you're in Reno, and you are in love with a girl from?
Purdue.
Well, not from Purdue, but going to Purdue.
Going to Purdue from Cincinnati.
From Cincinnati.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, man, and I kind of really sort of want to move out here to be closer to her, because Purdue's only an hour and a half? Hour from here. And what degree were you working on, Dina?
Speech and language and hearing science and behavioral neuroscience.
Isn't my voice doing better today?
It is.
She was giving me feedback. Don't clear it. No. I couldn't even talk Friday night. It was bad. Well, some of you heard that. And so Jake finished his undergrad in finance, so he's very analytical. She's very bright and analytical. It's like a power brainiac couple for babies, right? Because they are engaged now. You gotta hold the ice out a little bit. Boom. Okay? When you make big money your first year out of college, you can afford to blow some on ice. So I said, okay, well, that's cool, Jake, whatever. You're a college student and you're a nice enough kid, but people every month say, oh, I want to work with you, Aaron. I want to work with you. Okay, good. Then show me. So I get an email from Jake maybe a few months later, because you were coming out to see Dina, right?
Yeah, flying in every couple months, every 3 months to visit Dina.
And he said, Aaron, do you mind if I just hang out with you and kind of just follow you around all day? And I'm thinking, oh, okay. You want to follow me around? Well, it's August, and I got to do budgets in these 100-degree houses with fleas jumping off my legs. And in my cargo shorts in full effect.
First time I've ever had fleas crawling up my leg.
Yeah.
I looked at Aaron, I was like, what is this, bro? He's like, it's just fleas.
Just brush them off. Just whatever.
Like, don't bother now, just when we get out of the house.
You should have seen Tara when I got fleas in her Mercedes. She's all bent out of shape. Freaking out. So I was like, all right, let's go see. I was thinking he was thinking real estate's sexy, so let's hang out with me for a day. So we just did budgets all day long. And it was sweaty, and it was hot, and it's uncomfortable, and it stinks, and there's nothing cool, glamorous or cool about it. It's the way that money's really made. And Jake didn't even blink. Didn't faze him. And I was impressed by that. So then I didn't hear from him again. A few months later, he sent me an email. He said, hey, I'm graduated, got my degree, and I'm moving to Indiana. And I said, good, cool. And I said, well, I don't have a job for you, man. I don't. Why? Because he seemed like a nice guy, but unlike Jessica, who I knew what she was made of, right? Or unlike Steph, or unlike Heather, where I already had a history and knew the caliber of person they were and knew the kind of work ethic and ability they had, I'm not going to just extend that opportunity. I don't get on monster.com and look at people's resumes. I don't hire that way. I think because we do that, that's part of the success of our team. In fact, fast forward, Jake this week came to me and said, hey, I want to hire this kid. He actually brought two people. I want to hire this girl to do this, this, and this for our company. I want to hire this kid to do this, this, and this. And I was like, okay, because I trust Jake. And when you build relationships that way, then I don't have to be involved with everything. That's why I have so much free time. Because you surround yourself with competent people and then empower them to make decisions for your company. That's good business, not micromanage it. Got to let go of the control. So I said, well, I don't have anything for you. Jake's like, that's okay. I'm just going to get a real estate license. Going to get a place. You have a place that I could live in? If not, that's okay. Do you mind if I just hang out around your office? I'm like, sure. There's desks there. There's Wi-Fi, whatever. I don't care. Someone's always hanging around our office. In fact, a month ago, on Friday, all the contractors come in to get paid. This guy comes walking in like in those jumpsuit, Carhartt jumpsuits. And he walks in, and we thought he was with one of the contractors. And he wasn't. He was like dead drunk off the street. And our Buster, our construction manager, is like, hey, bro, yeah, have a seat. He thought he was one of the other guys. So the guy sits down, he's sitting in the chair, and 3 minutes later, he pees himself. And we all smell. Were you in there that day?
I was sitting right there.
Yeah, Jake sat right there. We all smell it, and then we all realize they're like, he's not your guy? No, he's not your guy? And
I was looking at Buster. I'm like,
he's just like, I think he came in from the cold, warmed up, and I was like getting in the bathtub. So we were like, okay, time to go. So we run him, we run him out of the room. But that's how laid back the office is. There's always a Shiloh or a bulldog or a homeless person peeing in the office. So I was like, yeah, Jake, you can hang out at the office. I don't care, whatever. Glad to have you, bud. So he gets his license, and then he comes to me and he says, is there anything that I can help you with? And I'm thinking, okay, let me just give you another test. Because if he has a W-2 mentality, an employee mentality, he just wants a job, I'm going to make him do something. And maybe not today, but in a week or two, he's going to ask me, how much am I getting paid for that? But if he has an investor mentality and he really just wants to learn, then he'll either take that idea and parlay that into some money for himself or for me. You see the difference? So I said, because W-2s hate to work if they don't know what they're going to make. That's one of my first tests. Okay, then go do this. Go do this, knowing that it's hard, knowing that you got to figure it out, and then come back and tell me what you did. You can't do that, then you're W-2. You think you're an entrepreneur, you think you're a business owner, you think you can be self-employed, then make money without knowing how much you're going to make beforehand. Do work without knowing what you're going to get out of it. That's hard to do because you've been preconditioned. So I say, you know what, Jake? I hate putting together the marketing docs for the properties that we sell every month. Because I got to get this template out. It's a PowerPoint. I got to drag the picture in there. I got to change all the numbers. I got to rewrite the description. I got to get the tax record. I got to pull comps. Then I got to put the budget in there. And it takes me 20 minutes per marketing doc. And we're selling 25, 30 houses a month. That's a lot of my time. The reason I was still doing it, because when you screw this up, it's a big deal. We've had numbers flip-flopped. So instead of 79, it's 97. Okay? And I always thought, well, if anyone screws it up, since they're 99% all my properties, I'd rather be me who bites the bullet. And we just had that happen on a couple months ago on that Cole property. Not Jake's fault, totally my fault. But I ended up I made $400 on that house. Tuition, right? Whatever. The one thing I wasn't going to do is change the price. That's bad business. Oh, I know, I told you 52. It's actually 59. Is that cool? Because I need to make some money on it. I didn't want to have that conversation. So Jake goes, okay, well, why don't you show me how to do them? I think maybe I took an hour. Maybe an hour, probably more like 45 minutes. And walked him through how I put them together. Now, I knew he had the degree. I knew he had the brains. Just didn't know if he had the mindset and the work ethic. And he took over all of them. And they were good, and they were perfect, and he came up with some new innovative ideas. And that was good. And I was ready to pay him and offer him money for it. And then all of a sudden, he showed up with a deal. Because if he's putting these marketing docs together, doesn't he now know the rental rates for the neighborhoods in Indianapolis? Doesn't he know the neighborhoods that we're buying in? Doesn't he know exactly what I'm buying them for? Isn't he starting to learn about how to ballpark the rehab budgets? He didn't just take over the work and then come back and say, okay, can I have a paycheck now? took over the work and said, oh, I'm going to go drive that property. So he thinks that's $10,000. See the difference? And he absorbed it, and then he went out and put out We Buy Houses signs and sent letters out to homeowners. Who paid for those letters and the We Buy Houses signs? He did. And then he brought me a deal. Hey, Aaron, what do you think about this address? He needs 10 grand in rehab. I'm thinking 625 rent. First couple deals, I think you had either me or Ryan go check them out, right?
Yeah.
He had one of us. Could you go check this out? I think I have a deal. We gave him feedback, altered it, then he modified it, and then all of a sudden he's feeding us deals. He's bird dogging. And then I said, hey, man, keep bird dogging, and then I'll pay you a salary for this. And I said, hey, man, Stephanie, we're going to put her over at Meridian Title. I need you to take over our side, and I'll pay you per deal that we run through the company. And I need you to systemize it and make it better. And he did that. And then we brought him in an assistant, Jessica, who you met yesterday, Megan's friend. Jessica's Jake's assistant. Jess is like my age, right? 36, 35. Jake's 23. Does age matter? Nope. I'm 40 and I'm way smarter than some of you. I made more than you did at every age. That doesn't matter. Not when you get over 21, right? And then I just came to Jake a month ago and I said, man, our maintenance coordinating, it's not working good. I feel like I have these two people that are doing it and we're missing things. So Jake comes in and he looks at PropertyWare and he checks all the functionality and he comes back with, well, we need to get headphones for this person at the desk and we got to change this for our reports and our communication needs to go this way. And then he went to Odesk. Has anybody heard of Odesk? You can hire virtual assistants, people that become your assistant. We have, tell about her qualification.
Well, she's living outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and she worked property management before. She's living at home with a kid. Her husband does construction, and she's just looking to pick up some work every day from home.
And how much is we paying her an hour?
Contract's $8.88 an hour.
$8.88 an hour.
She proposed that hourly rate.
And for the work that Jake's giving her, I would have honestly paid $25 an hour. Jake knew that too, but that's what she proposed to us. Right? And so now I have a partner. I have a partner who has come in and helped me find deals and helped me fix systems in this department and helped me fix systems in this department. And he and I are now working on growing a lending platform for the loans that we do on the non-recourse properties and formalizing that and making that. And so he's come in and been an addition to the company without ever being dead weight. He never said, well, start paying me and then I'll show you what I can do. That's a mistake that W-2s make. You see that? He came in and said, how can I help? He really meant it. Not how can I help for free, how can I help make you money? Every time I go to the auction, there's some knucklehead realtor who just got their license that wants to give me their card. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. Right? That's not networking. Networking is, let's see, what do you do? Okay. Can I help make you money this way? Is that something that would be interesting to you? See how that changes the conversation? Right? So one of the first mentors that I had, his name was Jim Gustafson, and he lived in Del Mar, California. That's when I was doing the first flip. And I met Jim because we showed up at Title. He had a property that he had on the market, and I bought it. We met at Title. I was like 26. He was in his late 50s, and he was just scaling back. He was on the tail end of his investing career. But he had like 80 houses that he owned in Riverside, and all he liked to do was race horses down, Santa Anita. That's all he wanted. And we met, and instead of me going to him and being like, well, can you mentor me, Jim? I'm like, man, this guy's what I want to be. He's got properties, and he doesn't even think about them, and he lives down at, he just races horses. He's like living the dream. He's a millionaire. I didn't say, Jim, will you mentor me? I said, so Jim, will you sell me more properties? He's like, yeah, I probably would sell you like one a month or two. And I said, all right, can we maybe meet for lunch or something? and I can just kind of lay out what I've been thinking and doing and have you pick holes in it, and then I'll buy a deal from you. Do you see how that was interesting to him? Because he was seeing how he could easily, without realtors, without listings, and he gave me all of his worst properties, which was whatever. I see it was California, 2001. You couldn't lose on real estate then. Houses were going up 7% a month. And so there was a lot of garbage that I bought from him, but it was worth its weight in gold because I would pick his brain and ask him questions. Just like what I did to Hirsch Claff on the golf course. Same thing. I soaked that up. I want to hear it, and that's what Jake's done. See, what you need to think of is, are you that kind of person? Do you have that mindset right now? Or do you just want a job? How different is he from you? That's what you should be thinking about. Because I'm very extroverted, very, loud and whatever. And maybe some of you are thinking, oh, no, Aaron, I can't do what you do because I'm not like you. But Jake's almost the exact opposite from me on the personality chart. He's very analytical. He's a caretaker. Dina has the lightsaber. She's the alpha, right? So, but do you see how Jake and I have a perfect partnership? Because we have such complementary strengths, and I trust Jake now. And that's why they affectionately call him Prodigy in the office. Because what I'm excited about is now that I have someone who thinks the way that I do and can grow and create systems, I'm like, oh, good. Now you keep working this, and I'm going to go grow this over here. So where do you stack up with that? Because a lot of you raise your hand and said, I want to make more money. Cool. What's the reality for you, though? Because you have all the personality types here with that one common ability to work their ass off, multitask, build, and some of you don't know how to work your ass off. You don't. Think you do, but I just put on what I put on Facebook the other day. Don't tell me how busy you are. Talk about the results that you've accomplished. I hate when someone's like, oh, I'm just so busy. Well, what are you accomplishing? I don't see anything. You have a job and a couple of kids. So what? Why are you proud of that? Tell me what you're doing. Well, tell me what your kids are doing. Tell me what your job consists of. Being busy just means maybe that you're horrible at managing your time, or you waste a lot of time on things that you shouldn't be wasting time on. Being busy is not a badge that you get to wear, to me. I'm not impressed by busy. I'm impressed by progress and accomplishments. But we all know people who throw out the busy thing, don't we? Because I watch a lot of TV. I follow, now that I have Amazon, streaming Amazon, and Netflix, and DVR, I follow 40 TV shows. I watch a ton of TV. And I always meet someone who's like, how do you watch so much TV? I'm too busy. I'm like, yeah, isn't that funny? Because you make a tenth of what I do. And I travel across the country every 10 days to see my kids. And I'll be around the world 3 or 4 times this year, and I take 8 vacations. And I'm independently wealthy. And what do you do? Because I watch a lot of TV, because I have a lot of free time, because I know how to build that time into my life. I left here last night and watched my new favorite show, Vikings. Anybody watch that show? Love that show. Okay? I actually can't go to sleep unless I watch two TV shows when I get home. Otherwise, I'll be emailing Jake with a new idea. So I settle my brain down with mindless reality shows. The Kardashians put me to sleep every night. Okay? Dina, you can go if you want. You don't have to stay up here. Thank you, Dina. He's so lucky, right? She's working on her PhD in what, Jake?
Speech pathology.
I'm telling you, this is a power couple. I want some naming rights, licensing rights on the kids, dude. So after Bird Dog comes wholesaler. And Jake, what do you think the difference is between a wholesaler and a Bird Dog?
A wholesaler will take the extra step to actually negotiate with the current owner of the property, the seller, and they'll actually put it under contract. So they'll take that step to put a number there and get a contract, a binding agreement with the seller.
Yeah, maybe 5% of the time they'll actually buy the deal. Very seldom. Now, there's some wholesalers that I know at auction that come in. They'll actually buy the property at auction so they can immediately wholesale it that week. Most wholesalers don't actually buy the property. they'll find it, maybe get a contract, maybe put some earnest money into the deal. And what are some of the ways that you use to find properties? Talk about a deal that you found.
Geez, my favorite is signs, is bandit signs. So big yellow, black letters, we buy houses, my cell phone at the bottom. And, I get people to help me to put those out on telephone poles, busy street corners, stake them in, and I field the calls. So, I'll get a call in and just ask general information, why are you selling? Well, how much are you looking to get out of it? Bedrooms, bathrooms, current condition, this type of stuff.
Has anybody not seen those signs? Does anybody not know what a bandit sign is? Why are they called bandit signs? Because a lot of times people put them in illegal places. Like if you put it on the telephone pole on the corner, you can't. It's considered littering, or it's considered trespassing or vandalism. So when I met Marcus and Kara, our partners in Kansas City, they were Rich Dad students that started like 3 or 4 years ago. They've done 150 deals, wholesale deals, when I met them. And they were posting 800 bandit signs a week all over Kansas City. They had a guy who had the long pole with the stapler on the top, and so he would hold the sign up and staple it to the top of the pole so it couldn't just be ripped down, like the light poles and stuff. And then the guy would take a picture of it and send it to him to prove that he was putting the signs up. They were putting up 800 a week all over Kansas City. They got a lawsuit from the city for like mass vandalism. Okay, scared him to death because he started out, he was a bricklayer. She was an art major, stay-at-home mom. And they get this lawsuit from the city filed by the attorneys like for just vandalizing the whole city, and they're just floored. So they get an attorney, and they spend $3,000 or $4,000 in legal fees, and they come to a settlement with the city, and so they pay a fine of $4,000 to the city. Who's up next, Dennis? Oh, okay. They pay a fine to the city of $4,000. So they're telling me this story, and I said, wait a minute, so you guys spent $7,500 between legal fees and fines? They're like, yeah. And I said, well, how many deals did you guys get during that time period? They're like, oh, like 50. I'm like, that's cheap marketing costs. Go do more. I said, that means that probably only cost you like $80 a house. That's totally worth it. They didn't think that was funny. They were really scared. Now, you can put bandit signs on your own house. You can put car magnets on your own car. You can put we buy houses signs on your own business. No problem with that, right? You can put them on your friend's house. Put them on their roof. They won't let you, right?
We got a $70 fine for piano lessons.
Get out of here.
No kidding.
Just
Email you a picture of the property management's fine.
Oh, did they? That's hilarious. Yeah, I do see some crazy HOA type restrictions. Or neighborhood, like rigorous neighbor. Well, the old north side where my house is, you can't do stuff like that. I took down a little tree, and it was a big deal.
We found out that the reason why all this happened, because we had that sign up for about a year and a half, and nobody said anything. Well, they had 3 people retire in that department, and so they got new people. We got new people in there, and they're all eager. They're going.
Oh, yeah. Raising revenues. Is that business friendly or not?
No.
Exactly. Madam Librarian LLC got shut down. Right? Marion, Madam Librarian.
They're actually making us
You with me?
move out.
Thanks. Okay. So wholesalers usually are finding deal either at auctions. There's a couple wholesalers here in town, like I was mentioning yesterday, they'll go and they'll wholesale to the funds. I'm going to spend a lot of time on breaking that down next week, how to run the numbers for who you wholesale to. More today, I just want to give you a big picture. So that's what wholesalers do. Any questions about wholesaling? Okay. How many of you have classes that you can still take with Rich Dad and you haven't taken wholesaling yet? It's one of my favorite classes. You should definitely put it in the rotation because they go through over 3 days all the different techniques that you can utilize. If you haven't taken that class, that's probably my favorite class. Well, I love mobile home too, and creative finance. But see, I think foreclosure and lease option are the same difference. I'd probably say those are my three favorite: mobile home, creative finance. Because in creative finance, I mean, isn't lease option just a creative finance? And in wholesale, they talk about foreclosure. In fact, Eric teaches wholesale and foreclosure. So you're getting a lot of crossover. But yeah, I love mobile home. It's nothing like that. I love creative finance, and I love wholesale. If you still have classes to take and you haven't decided on those three, I love, yeah.
What is EM?
Earnest money. I don't know hardly any bird doggers that actually tie up earnest money on deals. They just find the deal. So there's people that come to me and say, hey, Aaron, let me give you an example. Got a friend here in town. His name is Tad. Now, Tad is a very unique dude. Tad likes to drink IPA beer starting around 10 a.m. Okay? Tad is green, not the color of money. Green as in rides a bicycle every day, green. Recycles, green. Green initiatives, that stuff. That's Tad. He's green, which is cool. He lives in Fountain Square. He's the typical Fountain Square hipster, microbrew drinking dude. Bike riding. Just to be cool, Tad got a perm. And his what's the name of his brokerage? Like Permanent Real Estate Solutions or something? He put it in quotes. He's just really quirky. I love this guy. Every time he talks to me, he gets like too close into my personal space, which drives me nuts because I can always smell the bike aroma. It's like when my kids come in off the playground, that like dirty little 7-year-old boy smell. Tad smells like that all the time. Okay? In fact, this is the God's honest truth. I was on the Circle, walking out of the Columbia Club in August, and I see this guy out of the corner of my eye, and I'm thinking it's a homeless person. He like comes sidling up to me, and I'm thinking, and I'm just kind of like looking away. He's like, Aaron, what's up? And I'm like, oh, Tad, what's up? Like, I thought he was a homeless guy out of the corner of my eye, because he wears a red, white, and blue fanny pack. His poor wife, because she's the sweetest, just cute lady, and he's just quirky. I mean, he was a philosophy undergrad in college. That should tell you right there. No. History major, philosophy means lazy, likes stories. That's our deal. Okay. We're just can't decide. But here's the thing about Tad. Tad knows every single, I don't know, how many houses would you say are in Fountain Square?
Legit opportunities?
Total.
I don't know, 25. Well,
I'd say maybe 500.
yeah, in premium.
Not counting the dude yesterday who was really mad that I downgraded his. So south of Pleasant Run Parkway, we were at, I can't remember what house that was. Oh, St. Paul, right? We were at St. Paul. And I was saying, this is kind of close to Fountain Square. And the neighbor was listening. He came over. He's like, this is Fountain Square. And I'm like, no, not really. Not yet. You still got the parkway kind of separating us. He was pretty upset. And and then his son came to start to tell me that too. This is Fountain Square. We're Fountain Square people. I'm like, okay. Tad is a Fountain Square person. Tad is Fountain Square. So, circling back to bird dogging, I'm at the auction. Now, you guys ready for a test? This is a wealth mentality versus a poverty mentality test. Just clear your minds. Honest emotion time. I want you to think, if you're me, Tad comes up to you at the auction, what you're going to say to him. I'll be Tad, you be me. Aaron, there's this house. It's at Sanders, and that's Bates Hendricks. You know that neighborhood's good. There's houses there in Bates Hendricks for they just sold on MLS for $150,000. You have to buy it at auction. Me. Well, I didn't even look at that. What's the starting bid? He's like $33,000. I'm thinking, I was buying Bates Hendricks a couple years ago for $15, $20. That sounds high. But if he's saying $150, I haven't bought there for a while. It's just south of Eli Lilly. But it's not an area we've done a lot of homes in. So I go, I don't know. And he said, well, I was riding my bike, and I saw it was on foreclosure, so I drove by it. And the tenant was sitting out front, so I talked to him for like 2 hours yesterday. And I said, okay. I said, what's the deal? He said, well, this guy's in the military, and he has a military pension, but then he's also on disability, and he brings in like $5,000 a month, and he wants to buy the house. Okay, what's he willing to pay? He's willing to pay $80,000, and he's willing to make $2,500 a month payments on the house. And how does it look? He's like, I've been through it. I have pictures I can show you. It's amazing, but you got to put the bid in right now. So, purchase price on the house is what? 33. This guy's willing to pay what? 80. Do I have to spend anything on repairs? No. How much will he pay me a month? How long will it take him to pay me off? Just under 3 years. Good deal. Now, there was no issue in my mind about trusting that he's wrong, because Tad's listed properties for me. I didn't question anything he said, because he's never been wrong. I've been trying to hire him for years. We've done 35, 40 deals together. So if you're me, and I say, okay, Tara, go put the bid in. She puts the bid in, because we had like 5 minutes left, and I knew no one else was on it, because I'd already talked to the other guys to see what they're looking at that day. And I said, okay, so I'm going to get this. And then Tad says, so what do you want to do? How do you want to compensate me? What do you want to pay me? You're me. What are you going to pay Tad? You got 10 seconds, because I gave him an answer that quick. What are you going to offer, Tad? What do you mean?
Half of my proceeds.
Half of your profits? What are you going to offer?
I'd say
500. What are you going to offer? And now I know Tad. He'd already had a couple IPAs. He'd say, no, bro, I trust you. You always take care of me. Tad's waiting. You're at $5,000? What do you have, Inez? Brought me a deal. See, he told me about it. He found this deal that I was going to make all this money on. 2,500? 5,000. What are you guys going to offer? 3? Both of you agree? It's been all over. I've had him list properties. It's all over the map. What are you feeling today? This is not answer questions with questions. It's answer. 2,500.
What kind of deals are you working on that?
What do you mean?
Well, he's doing other deals.
He's listing flips for me.
Yeah, so he's got other stuff cooking,
Mm-hmm.
and he may need to partner up with somebody to get something done.
So what would you offer me if I'm Tad and you're me?
Piece of the next deal.
Okay. What do you guys think? 10%. Oh, at the end, when they pay it off. Okay, what do you guys think? 2,500? 57. It's like the Price is Right. Anybody have a different range from that's outside of the range that we saw on the side of the room? 2,500, 5,000, half the profits, 10% on the back end. Anybody have a different number to throw out? What's that? You would have let him have the whole deal? He doesn't have any money. You would have bought the whole deal and then given it to Tad. Can we do deals together? Yeah, okay, you see how it's kind of tough? I mean, negotiating is in the moment, guys. It's in the moment. And what I find is when you're in the moment, people's poverty mentality or their wealth mentality pops out. You see what they're made of in that little section, that little quick second they have to deliver. I immediately said, I'll tell you what, Tad, I'm going to buy it today. I got to get my money back first from those payments, and then we'll split 50-50. You bring me $1,250. So you bring me the full $2,500 until I get my 33 back, and then we'll split $1,250 a month after that. Good deal for him. Good deal for me. Is it fair to ask for my capital back first? Sure it is. Sure it is. You think he was happy? Oh yeah. What's half the profit on that deal?
23.95.
I just put 24 grand in his pocket. Because now, did I have to give him that much? No. Tad would have been cool with 500 bucks. So you weren't wrong if you're only thinking 2,500. You're not wrong. He would have taken that. I know he would have. But think how motivated he is to bring me deals now. See, you would have been one of the people that Tad works with. I became the number one person that he works with. So if you're my competitor, who does Tad call first? Me. Yeah. He'll call you until you go bankrupt, and then he'll call me. So you'll give him like 6 or 7 deals, and then... No, actually, I would have never let you talk to him. You would have just been you and I forever. Yeah. Until all those lottery winnings are gone. Okay? So do you see the difference? But do you see how poverty mentality doesn't necessarily mean you try to beat people up, that you grind people, that you're unfair. It doesn't mean that. Wealth mentality just means that you'll make decisions that will grow your wealth. Do you understand that? Just like a lot of times people think, oh, analytical, they're nerds. That's bad. Alpha's cool. Analytical is bad. That's stupid. It's just different. And there's billionaires with every dominant personality type. There are. So that's an excuse you cannot use. But poverty mentality people consistently make decisions that maintain their status quo or only slightly grow it. Or worst case scenario, they lose money. Just identify where you are. Because in a heartbeat, I was like, yeah, bro, I'll give you half. I would love that because I want more of these. I love that I didn't have to do the homework and you showed up at that auction. And this was like a year ago. Found money. That's how I saw it. I was like, sweet. Every penny I would have, if I knowing all that knowledge, I would have paid 70 grand for that property just to make the spread, Because then if he bombs out of the payments, then I keep all those and I have a great rental property in Bates Hendricks. You understand? Okay. So think about. Let me show you guys an email that I get from a wholesaler here in town, okay? So you can see the level of detail that I get from her. Here's one that she sent me. Is that blurry or is it just me? That's clear, right? Now, she sends them to me first because I buy the most from her. She tells me the neighborhood, she gives me the address, bedrooms and baths. She wants to wholesale it to me for $29,900. That's right in the subject, okay? And she gives me a breakdown. This is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath with detached 1-car garage. Where did I put my laser pointer? Oh, here it is. It was completely rehabbed in 2006, except for windows and garage. It is currently occupied by a tenant paying $565 a month rent. She is month to month and is reportedly a great tenant. If you are going to evict the tenant, it would need windows, garage, siding, a new overhead door, paint, and carpet. If you're going to sell it turnkey, a new AC and furnace, as they are 7 years old, so approximately $10,000. With miscellaneous items, cleanup included, $12 to $13K. She gives me the taxes. She gives me the rent potential. And then at the bottom, she gives me a whole page full of pictures. All right? You see the amount of detail that she's providing?
How does she know about the tenants that are in there?
That was part of her research to getting that deal under contract. Okay? She tells me what she wants. I hate when wholesalers are like, let me tell you property, you tell me what you'll pay for it. I'm like, nice try, you need me more than I need you. You tell me what you want for it. Okay? She's already done the homework on what it needs and about how much that will cost. So she's actually taking the time to learn my construction numbers. She knows what the rent is. Now she winks because she knows that we know it better than her, but she still puts that out there in case we don't take the deal. She's got that email to forward to somebody else. She knows what's going on with the people living there. Much different than a bird dog. A bird dog would have just said, hey, Aaron, I got this house on Laurel. I think, I got an investor who's willing to sell, and they'll probably sell it somewhere in the 25 range. If you end up buying it, would you give me $1,000? I'm okay with doing all the homework if I'm only paying you $500 to $1,000. But if you want to, if you know you have it for $22,000, and you want me to buy it from you for $29,000, you better have everything that I need to make the decision at my desktop. And then I better be able to trust that those numbers are right. So I'd say on the first 10 or 15 deals that Laura sold to me, I would be like, oh yeah, you said 10 grand, here's the actual budget we did. It was 13, it was 14. She'd go back and see where she went wrong and refigure, and now she's probably within about 10% of our budgets, but do you see how valuable that is to me now? But she's taking that extra work. So in some ways, wholesalers are just willing to work harder than bird dogs. They're willing to put more money in the game. They're willing to learn more about construction. They're willing to spend more time negotiating and getting deals under contract and finding out the story, so that someone like me who just needs deals but has lots of money and doesn't care what she makes, I wouldn't have cared if she got this under contract for $5,000. I wouldn't have cared. If you would care, there's a little bit of your poverty mentality. Does that make sense? Because I don't begrudge her money. Good for her. If she gets someone to give her the house, I don't care. Now, one of the smart things this wholesaler does is, I actually know how much profit she makes on every deal, because her policy and what she promotes is that when you buy a wholesale deal from her, she donates 10% of her profits to the charity of your choice in your name. Isn't that smart? I thought that was really smart. So I'll see, $500, $300, $600. I keep telling her, Laura, I can't wait until you donate $10,000 to a charity in my name. Is that poverty mentality or wealth mentality? Love for her to make $90,000 off of me. Yeah, she'll always want to work with me. I bought this 12-plex a few years ago from a wholesaler, and he had lined it up with the buyer. It was this old guy who ran the property into the ground for 40 years. He had Parkinson's, and he just wanted to walk away from it and not have to pay any taxes. That's how trashed it was. And so he just said, if I can just walk away from this property without a penny in my pocket, I've already made my money by being a slumlord, collecting rents, and not making any repairs. I just want to get it off my plate. So he came and brought it to me, and he said, hey, Aaron, what do you think for $75,000? And I went and did my homework, ran my numbers, looked at the 1% rule, and I was like, yeah, cool. So we get to closing, and I look at the HUD, the closing paperwork, and I see taxes for about $5,000 or $6,000, and basically like $65,000 to Rick Horn for a referral fee. And then I look up at the seller, and he's like smiling because he's glad to get rid of it. He doesn't care, And Rick's just like sweating bullets because he's wondering if I'm going to be pissed that he made that much money. And I said, good job, man. I'm really happy. I said, I know that you're always going to use me to buy deals because I don't begrudge you your money. And I would have paid $150 for it. So he's like, oh, man. But does it really matter what a wholesaler gets it under contract for? One of the reasons Laura sends deals to me first is because she's had people say, oh, you're going to make $7,000 off that deal? No, I don't want it then. They have said that to her. After they said, oh, I'll take it for $29. Sure, yeah, that looks like a good one. Oh, wait, you're going to make $7? No, that's too much. Why do you deserve that? That's like extreme negative poverty mentality, isn't it? But you got to, hopefully some of you have been thinking, where am I on that spectrum? One thing that I have seen is that no one ever admits to negative poverty mentality, ever. No one will ever admit to that. It's always something else. Just like no one will ever admit to being lazy. Oh, you're admitting to being lazy? Okay, cool. Mm-hmm.
Keeps track of all of this.
Such a good question. She said, who keeps track of all these deals that I have and all these? Where's Dana? So, no, she doesn't have to come in. It's okay. It's okay. We made her come up earlier, Lincoln. That's her brother, of course. Make her come up. Is bookkeeping 2 T's, 2 K's? 2 E's? Jeez. 2 P's and 2 E's? It's B-O-O-K-K-E-E-P-P. Do I have it right?
Yes.
You're making me paranoid. Fortunately, that's not an easy word to sell. All right, let me touch on taxes and bookkeeping. I did not realize how cheap bookkeeping is. If you have a business that you own, whether it's real estate investing or a taco stand, and you make more than $50,000 a year and you still do your own bookkeeping, you're wasting your time. Every hour that you spend bookkeeping, you should be out handing out free coupons for tacos. It's a waste of your time. Bookkeeping is $15, $20, $25 an hour of work. There's a website called Account Temps. You can hire temp accountants a couple hours a month to come in and do all your books for you. Make sense? Most people use accounting software like QuickBooks. What your bookkeeper does is they go into your QuickBooks and they go into your bank account and they take all the receipts and they do what's called reconciliation. What does that mean? That means if I took a trip, then they take everything I spent on the trip and they put it into travel. If I spent money to go to a symposium to talk about our business, they put that in marketing. You understand? They put them in the categories that I need down the road when I file my taxes. That's what bookkeepers do. When a bill comes in, they pay the bill when I approve it. A lot of business owners do their own bookkeeping. Total waste of time. Spend that time growing your business. That's the difference between working in your business and on your business. Unless you're a bookkeeper, or unless you make less than 50 grand a year, only time you should do your books. Questions about bookkeeping? So when I get a deal like I did with Tad, I send an email to Dana, who's my bookkeeper. Now, you guys met Dana earlier. She was working for me here for a couple of years. Her husband, Adam's in the military. They got relocated to Florida. She still does books for all of my entities from Florida. It's all online QuickBooks. Everything's emails. She gets into my bank account and has view-only access so she can reconcile into my QuickBooks. Bookkeepers can be national. They don't need to be local. You don't need to meet with them. Every minute you spend meeting with your bookkeeper becomes minutia. I had a friend say to me a couple years ago, Aaron, I bet that 90% of what you do each day is minutia. And only 10% of your time is growing your business and making money. And he said, don't answer me, just think about it. And that kept me up all night. Because I'm like, that's true. What makes me money? And what's minutia? You have to do minutia. It's got to get done. You got to do your bookkeeping. But for me, bookkeeping is minutia, isn't it? Does it grow my business? No. It just keeps things moving forward on the back end. And a lot of people will spend time on minutia and call it work. I was working all day. No, you weren't. You were doing bookkeeping. That doesn't make you more money. I was working all day. No, you weren't. You had meetings with your partners, and they needed to know what's going on with the business. That didn't grow your business. You understand that? Once I started to think about my time, not only what my time was worth, but putting a category on the different activities of my workday and saying, this is less valuable than this, that's huge. Because then you start to go, yeah, I need to do this. This makes me money. But anytime I step off to do this, I'm not making money anymore. I just stopped. So now my whole goal is to fill those gaps with employees. that can do that for me so that I can focus on moving my business forward and making more money. Do you see that? The other thing that's interesting is that these things sometimes are the most difficult because it requires you being out of your comfort zone, doing sales, cold calling. So Laura, this wholesaler, the best way that she finds property, she calls it driving for dollars. She drives a neighborhood and she sees a house that's boarded up, and then she checks the tax record and she sends a letter to the homeowner. You realize what a shot in the dark that is? But she's getting so good at driving for dollars that she's getting like a 5% return rate. For every 100 letters she sends, she's getting five houses. That's phenomenal. But think how hard that is. I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive around Fountain Square today. Really hard to do, but is that minutia or is that driving your business forward? Absolutely. So bookkeeping is huge minutia that a lot of 5-figure and 6-figure investors call work, and that ain't work. Don't do it. Bookkeeping flows into accounting. So Dana works with my accountant. Where does my accountant live? In Utah. She sends him everything. One of the things I loved about Dana last year was she made every single expense that I had, every single penny that I spent an expense. It was so awesome. It was so great. It's like $3 million and everything was expensed off. I had this like $400,000 return coming back when Dana was done. And then my accountant's like, you owe 170. But I'm like, good, that's what a bookkeeper should do. They should be my advocate. Let the accountant say no, because the accountant's who I'm going to send to the audit anyway. Right? Now, at Alpine, we have bookkeepers that enter in invoices, that write checks, that reconcile, and then we have an accountant in-house. And the accountant puts everything together, puts financial documents that I need to see together, puts financial documents that the accountant needs to see together, and then feeds everything for tax preparation. Unless you're a W-2, unless you're like one job, no money from anything else, TurboTax is okay if you're that person. But you should not be doing your tax preparation if you make over 50 grand a year, or if you make money more than one different way. You are not saving money. It costs $300, $400, $500 per return that your accountant files. I found, personally, that an accountant will save me $5,000 in taxes that I have to pay in exchange for a $500 to $1,000 return that I pay him. It's like 5 to 1. You understand? Unless you're a W-2. Unless you just have one job and it's really easy the way you make your money, then you can just put it into TurboTax. Now, a lot of people talk, has anybody ever heard them talk about like S-Corps? Okay? The way that I do my business is this. All of my businesses and all of my partnerships that I buy properties in are little LLCs. You with me? None of those LLCs make profits. All the profits flow back to me. But not me, my S-Corp. Now, there's double taxation, this and that, but that's minutia for you to understand the structure. That's the problem people do when they explain this to you. All the money just comes through to my S-Corp. I file tax returns for those little LLCs. But if you keep profit in the LLCs, you get taxed twice. If you flow it back to an S-Corp, you only get taxed once. Now, that S-Corp will be its own business. And that S-Corp should do a salary poll for you. So every week, I have a payroll company do salary for my S-Corp to show that it's a legitimate business. But that's the structure that I set up for the flow-through for my personal money. So I don't use a bank account that's Aaron Adams. I don't have a savings account, Aaron Adams. It's so funny when we changed to Huntington Bank. They're like, well, this is our private banker, and they'll be your personal liaison for your accounts. And I'm like, oh, well, I won't need any accounts. They're like, what do you mean? We're showing like 34 accounts that we are setting up for you. Alpine Construction, Alpine Escrow, Wholesale House, right? So like, what about the Aaron Adams account? I'm like, I don't use an Aaron Adams account. What about the Aaron Adams savings? I don't use that. And private banker was like, because they're like, the private banker will wire money for you. You just have to tell them. I'm like, will you do that for business accounts? And they're like, oh, no, we're not set up for that. Like, you need private banking for S Corps. That's what I need. No. The S Corp does a payroll pull, but it all goes towards taxes. Right now, I spend about $6,000 a month. It just gets sent and set aside for taxes that I'm going to have to pay for the year. Now, it's not. If I want to buy a new shirt, I buy it out of the S Corp account. And then Dana tries to make it an expense, and then the accountant says no. Does that make sense? So like when I was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, met with my mobile home park, the mobile home that I bought. Wrote the trip off. Now I may not get those Chuck E. Cheese coupons through. But do you understand? I'm in the business of buying and selling properties and owning businesses. My S Corp is the parent company and liaisons with all the LLCs. And so, I probably, by running it that way, I probably average about 10 to 13% tax rate. That's what I'm paying on my income. What tax rate are you paying on your 6- and 5-figure incomes? Isn't that ironic? But it's because I'm set up to take advantage of the same kind of laws that Mitt Romney's accountants and attorneys and loopholes found and took advantage of. You need to structure your business that same way. Because Mitt Romney pays about 10%. And he makes a lot more than me. He's a 9-figure guy. Make sense? Does that help you understand accounting a little better? Bookkeeping, tax prep, and how to set it up? That's the Cliff Note version of how you want to think about that. But again, going back to hierarchy, my employees and partners, number 1. Accounting, bookkeeping, and tax prep, number 2. Insurance, lawyers. Okay? Think of it that way. So, good question. Did I answer your question?
Yes, except, so the deal. There's got to be, does that just go into the software and someone monitors the software?
So Dana tracked when I bought the property at auction, right? She'll track that because I used one of my LLCs. So she tracks the property going, the money out, and then she's waiting to see as it comes back in. So every time I get money from TAD, if it's payback of the original $33,000, then she tracks that as return of capital. Once I start making profit, then it'll go towards my income.
And she has, like, there's some kind of form there that says I'm supposed to get $2,500 a month for how many other months? $1,200 goes to tax.
Yep.
And there's something there that tells
So she
that,
tracks that.
and she looks at it every month.
Yeah, she uses, because you have a ledger and you have QuickBooks. And the ledger helps, and then you have the bank accounts. And your ledger explains what's happening in the bank accounts and the QuickBooks. Because QuickBooks is what you really need for the taxes, or to run reports. Like, I want to see my profit and loss. I want to see my cash flow. That's what QuickBooks is good for. But QuickBooks doesn't always explain what's been happening. That's where you want to use a ledger. Now, we use a Google Docs. Have you ever seen Google Docs? So we use a Google Docs spreadsheet for that particular entity. Okay. So you'll see on the spreadsheet. But that's where she goes in and makes all the explanation of what's happening in the bank account, what properties we bought, what the deal is on them, and then how that's all translating to QuickBooks. That's what your bookkeeper keeps for you. It's a pretty big document. See if it comes up. Does that make more sense? Yeah. You want to have that for every entity. And you definitely, whenever I have a partnership with an investor, I have Dana set up an LLC for the partner and I. Yes. Yeah, I don't like crossing LLCs. No, bad business. See, there you go. So you see that she has the notes off to the side there? So you got addresses, money spent, running capital available, status, notes, outstanding monies, code red. See, it's all the like little details and notes and reminders because I'm a train wreck about that kind of stuff. I always got to deal with TAD times 100. Does that make sense? So when I do a partnership, it's one LLC, you and I, depending on who's putting money in, but usually if it's your money and we're partnering off of your money, then it's your LLC and I'm just the manager. And then I have Dana set up the LLC, its own QuickBooks account, and its own ledger. Just from talk about asset protection. You know, Alpine Property Management doesn't buy any houses. It's in the business of managing properties. Wholesale Houses doesn't buy any houses. It's the marketing umbrella for all of the symposiums and the bus tours that we do. Does that make sense? Cosner Creek Properties you see all those different entities that we track. That's $1 million of money that I have from an investor here in Indiana that I invest with him. And you want to keep all those relationships separate, all with their own books. You'll spend a lot on bookkeeping, accounting, and tax prep. You should spend a lot more on those things than you should on asset protection. I spend right now $15,000 a month on those things. Worth every penny. Because you know what? My books are done every week. My books were caught up at 11:30 this morning. If I get a letter from the IRS tomorrow saying you're getting audited, I'd be like, okay, cool, it's not going to take any of my time. My accounting is updated to the day. My accountant worked for IRS. I would love that. Whatever, good, I'm glad. I'd love to be able to say, yeah, we had an audit, and this is how my system for bookkeeping, accounting, and tax prep held up. It's got to be that tight. And Hirsch Claff, I learned that from a 100 millionaire. He's like, never be sloppy about your bookkeeping, accounting, and tax prep. And I am sloppy about it, so I pay people to do it. And then I pay someone to come in and audit every year. Audit all the bookkeeping Dana's been doing. Audit all the Alpine books. We audit those things. Because if you have good systems that aren't based on trust, then it makes trust really nice. Then trust is frosting. It makes feel good. But you set up good systems that have checks and balances and financial controls that are really clean. So yeah, it is asset protection from that standpoint, but I'm not just paying someone to give me a Cadillac asset protection package. So that's a great point. Questions about that? Yeah. Yeah, so an LLC is like $75 to set up. And what we always do is, we pay Dana usually per partnership about $150 a month, comes out of the partnership, pays her. And the QuickBooks, monthly QuickBooks goes to her. The end of the year accounting comes out, goes to them. The partnership would pay that. It's essentially coming out of profits that the partnership would share.
So that person is the sole owner of the LLC, or are you both?
Depends on whose money. If it's your money and my money, then we're both members. But if it's your money, then you're the only member. Because you can have a member-managed LLC. So if it's our money, then it's a member-managed LLC. We're the members and we manage it. But if you want me to invest your money, then it's your LLC, because it's your money, and I don't deserve to be on your LLC. And then you designate me and we make it a manager-managed LLC. You make me the manager, which means I can be fired at any time if you're not happy with how I'm investing the money. And then that still gives me the access to buy and sell properties and do all the other transactions. Much cleaner. One thing I never, ever, ever want, and I have a friend, his name's Giovanni, and he's in Florida. And last year, he and his organization sold 200 houses to investors, and he has all these partnerships that he set up. But he just has the partners send him the money into one account that he's buying the properties with, and then he pays them returns. And I'm like, bro, because the other thing we do is if we do properties, then the properties go in the LLC's name. And he's putting all the properties he's buying in his LLC's name and taking all their money and pooling it in one account. I'm like, that's a security. You're running a mutual fund. You didn't get approved with the SEC to do that. You will go to jail. I knew a guy here in Indy. His name was Rick. He started investing with some people at church. Hey, everybody put in $10,000, and then I'll go to the auction and buy some properties. And he was doing great. He had done like 5 or 6 flips with this group at church. And she got mad at church because she didn't get invited in, and she called the SEC, and Rick went to jail for 90 days because he was running a little fund. I hear that. I met Rick in 2005 when I came out here, and he told me that story, and I was like, I don't ever want to not be able to see my little boys. Life is too short for me to spend 90 days even in jail. So I'm so anal about not, about SEC, about collusion, about those types of things. You have to be. That's why I don't even, if you think about it, that's why I don't do my accounting at all. I never make decisions about whether I should allow that write-off or not. I let my accountant make that decision. Make sense? Never be cavalier about accounting. I had one investor who's like, let me tell you about real estate. So I buy these houses at auction, and then I got this cash, and then I take the cash and I fix up the houses, and the IRS doesn't know what kind of house it was, and I got that cash from my pool business, and it was just in my safe, and now I don't have to pay taxes. I'm like, bro, that's tax evasion. They'd love to put you in jail for that. You're bragging about that to me. You're a fool. Somebody's going to get pissed at you. You know, most people get reported to IRS from a partner. They do. It's a former partner or a disgruntled employee. Yeah. Did you say some Christian? All right. So when people brag about that, I'm like, and that guy's like, I got a vending business. You know what I'm saying? Quarters, dollars. I'm like, no. What do you mean? Why would you brag about that? If you did do that, why would you ever talk about it? Not cool.
Do you use the bookkeeper in the accountant's office?
No, I don't like that. I feel like that's like having your leasing agents be your property managers. I feel like it's a little bit of a conflict. I want my bookkeeper to be really aggressive. Just like I want my property manager to be aggressive at stopping bad tenants to come in when they're screening. I want Dana to be my advocate, write off as much as she can, and have the accountant tell her no. When the bookkeeper's working because sometimes accountants will spin up, not being aggressive enough. I don't want to be overly conservative. That's at my expense, and I'm paying too much in tax. Now he may think, well, Aaron has been, hey, he's only 15% this year, but that could be $75,000 to me. Plus, I have so much variability on a day-to-day basis that I'm rolling with bookkeeping that I want Dana to be my employee. Because I do all sorts of random deals and things like that.
So are you saying she does your bookkeeping?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Bookkeeping should be in-house or, somebody from a separate organization in your accounting. That's just my own, there's no good reason for that. It's just, I just kind of like it being separated out.
Do you have a criteria, like you mentioned, for some of the other things that you look at, like for a bookkeeper? How small and too small or too big?
Bookkeeper can be a great stay-at-home mom. I have an accounting degree, but I'm not a CPA kind of job. That's why Account Temps, the website, or websites that find people for accounting placement. There's a couple of job sourcing websites for that. I actually love those. And I know a CFO, a friend of mine here in town, recommended those, and we've had a lot of success with that. Because you can go to them and say, I just need somebody who can do bookkeeping for QuickBooks, and they have different kinds of skill levels and pay grades, and different amount of times that people want, just like Odesk. I actually think that's the best way to start. Because you can't really we can find contractors on Craigslist. You can't really find good, because those people come vetted already. They've been criminal background, those kinds of things. So that's a great way to just be like, I'm thinking it's 5 to 10 hours a month. Or imagine bringing someone like that in to audit your business. In Kansas City, we have this former CFO. And he just is like paying for greens fees because he's retired. But think of the skill set that we have. It's huge. I'm like, do you want to move to Indy? We're bigger there.
So they have access to all of your accounts and your money?
No, you give them view-only access. So Dana has a login to my Huntington accounts. She can see all the accounts. She can download statements, but she can't move or wire any money. So she has a login, but she can't even bill pay herself a check. She can't even transfer. That's called the financial control. Some of the biggest fraud that I see is when the bookkeeper pays the bills. Now Dana has a checkbook, but she can only write checks on my approval. So yeah, I guess Dana could go write a $100,000 check to someone. but it would get caught really quick. You know.
Because you go by and you look and you see.
Right. Yeah, she can't go in and wire or transfer. That's where you hear the horror stories. Yeah, any wires. I mean, she's smart. She even gets approval to pay herself. I just got an email from her yesterday with all these $150 invoices attached. Approved to pay myself? And I'm like, yeah. So then she'll go cut a check. But she's smart like that. So I completely trust Dana, and I require approval. That's the clean way to do it. Yep. Yeah.
So you were talking about partnerships and LLCs.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point, I mean, if you have a partnership that's, say, $1 million in properties, do you do that under one LLC? Or
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think the whole, like I hear the Series LLC. Again, remember going back to the liability thing? They'll tell you that you want to separate out each asset because somebody's going to come sue you. My whole thing is those lawsuits don't happen very much. Case in point, insurance companies charge $7 a month for $1 million in liability insurance. I keep it to the partnership, not to the properties. Yeah.
So all these LOCs filter to your S corp.
Right.
Which is full sell houses.
No, my S corp is mine's just called Galloway Corp, which is that's the name of the township I grew up in New Jersey. I'm a big fan of geographical LLCs. I don't like when people my worst name for an LLC is Synergy. If you put the word synergy in an LLC, you're a loser. People come up with all these like esoteric, like advanced concepts for future growth LLC. Like I hate those names. That's just preference. Like Cosner, it was from the creek that runs by the guy's house. Cosner Creek Properties LLC. Galloway Corp, township I grew up in New Jersey. Alpine, because I went to BYU in Utah. It's easy to spell. I like easy names that people know what the business is kind of when they hear it. I don't like esoteric business names. Any other questions? Okay. All right, let's circle back on flipping. So, if a bird dogger is just finding deals and pointing them to you, and a wholesaler is finding, maybe buying some, getting some under contract, and earnest money, then the only other category is someone who actually flips and holds. Right? This person buys the property, rehabs, rents, or MLS. And you can flip to investors or homeowners. And your profit potential should be 10K to who knows. That's the way that I mentally think of the different categories. Now, flipping in and of itself, I mean, I've taught full 3-day seminars on flipping, going through the formulas, going through comps, going through budgets, going through finding deals. Can you see how that's a whole, in 3 days you can't even cover it all. But the one thing that I want to show you today is the formula that I use to flip properties. Now actually next week I'm going to spend, in Dallas, I'll spend about 3 hours on that. We're going to videotape that, so shoot me an email this week and I'll send a copy of that to you if you want to see it. Let me show you the formula that I use for flipping. And when I mean flipping, I don't mean to investors, I mean flipping to homeowners. You with me? So here's a house that Jake, the Prodigy, found in Fountain Square. He realized that the tax mailing address for the tax bill was in Colorado. But the address of the property is in Indiana. What does that mean? Absentee owner. So he sent the owner a letter on my instruction, and the letter that we sent had a picture of the house that Jake had just taken. And some people send out letters that are just like, I may or may not be interested in buying this house that is at the address listed on the envelope, right? Super form letter. The way that we do it is we put a picture of the house, meaning that we know what house we're talking about, and then we put an offer in the letter. So we sent the letter to the homeowner that said, we just did a flip across the street. I'd be willing to give you $29,000 for this house. All cash, close tomorrow. Now, if you're the owner, and this owner had bought the house for about $14,000 and had owned it for 7 years, you going to call me back? Sure. Maybe. Maybe you knew what was really going on in Fountain Square. Maybe you didn't. He didn't, and he called us back. Because he didn't know that it had been appreciating like it had. So, had tenants, we got in. This is what it looked like before. So before, after. Before kitchen, after kitchen. Before bathroom, after bathroom. Now the kitchen, we actually put in the third, there was a third bedroom on the first floor. So you can see the little doorway. We took the third bedroom out on the first floor and put the kitchen there. The kitchen used to be in the back of the house, and we pulled it up to the front and made the back of the house the master bedroom. So here's the listing. We listed it in January. No, it closed in January. We listed it. When did we list that? It was on the market for like 90 days. Oh, days on market, 146 by the time it closed. We listed for $130,000, $134,900. We sold it for $130,000. So we bought it for $25,000, sold for $130,000. Are you interested? All right. Are you surprised we painted it urine yellow and shit brown? Guess who chose that color? Tad. Tad chose that color. Guess who chose the bamboo floors? I didn't know we could put bamboo and make it look that nice. Guess who said don't put granite, put this corian? Tad. Guess who said put cherry? Guess who said, Aaron, take your 3-bedroom, 1-bedroom, 1-bath and make it a 2-bedroom, 2-bath? Tad. Guess who said take that vinyl front thing off and make it look decorative and cute? I was like, okay, ma'am. That was all Tad. Tad. So here's what we spent. Bought it for $25,000, fixed it for $50,000. All in, $75,000. Now, we sold it for how much? $130,000. So how much profit did I make? I did not make $55,000. Why? What do you got to pay when you flip a property? Yeah, who pays the commissions? Seller. Who pays when they get a home inspection and want you to fix things? Seller. Who pays insurance and utilities while it's listed? Seller. So how much are typical commissions on a deal? 6. In my mind, I say, what am I going to sell this for? And I subtract 10% off. 6% for the commissions and 4% for miscellaneous, things I got to fix, all those kinds of things. So if I sold it for $130,000, what's 10% of $130,000? 13. So $130,000 minus 13 is 117. $117,000 minus my 75 into it is how much? 42. 42,000 on my 75. What percentage did I make on that deal? Net. Did I put it up there? Was I that smart? Yes, I was. Thank you for sharing my own slide with me. Jake probably made it. Damn it, Jake. 56% on my cash. Is that a good deal? Even over 100, because I made that in less than 6 months, right? Well, plus I bought it. So maybe it took me 8 months to make 56%. Is that good? I won't do a flip unless I can net 35%. If I can't net 35% on my flip, then I wholesale it. Because some other moron may try to or be happy with making less. Now, I got to know a guy here in town named Gary. All he does is MLS flips for homeowners. That's his whole business. And with all the funds coming into town, it's been getting real competitive for Gary to get deals. Not like the good old days. So Gary is down to, he'll do flips for 15 to 20% now. But he always has 15 flips going on at any given time. So he knows his construction numbers, his sales prices to the T. So he can cut his margins. Why should you not cut your margins more than 35%? Yeah, because you may screw up the budget. You may think it's going to be 50 and it ends up being 65. You may think that it's going to sell for 130 and it sells for 120. You may think that you only have 4% for the home inspection stuff and they end up catching a foundation issue that costs you $7,000. So you need that kind of spread on the front end because your inexperience will contract that throughout the deal. You with me? You may leave it as a 3-bedroom house because you don't have Tad working with you. Or you may paint it pale blue and nobody wants to buy it instead of urine yellow. An A-plus flip is 35% or more. Because I can do 50% plus flips here, I won't do any flip less than I'd rather just wholesale it to someone like Gary. It's not worth it. Imagine if you just did 2 flips a year and you made 56% per flip. I've had people say to me, I'll meet New York people, Wall Street guys. I'm like, you know, it's really not that hard to make over 75, 80% a year on your money. And they're like, whatever, dude. What Ponzi scheme are you in? I'm like, yeah, I know this buying and selling real things is weird for you. You do stocks. But you know, what was Madoff paying his investors? I think it was like 10% a year because he had to make it in the stock market. I don't even tell him that I can easily average over 100% a year on flips. Now, you're limited on scale, right? I couldn't do this here in Indiana. If somebody said, here's $50 million, do flips, make me 100%, could I do it? Can't get enough deals. But I'd rather make really good return on less deals than, you know, try to line up a bunch of 10% flips on 100 deals. So I always look at what I'm into it, what I think I can sell it for, which is called the ARV, the after repair value, and then work backwards to see what kind of profit I make. And then based on that decision, I will wholesale it. Or maybe it makes more sense to put a tenant in there and sell it to an investor and say, hey, this is what Fountain Square is doing. I made this rental grade. You can be the one to flip it when it gets a little more meat on the bone in a couple years. Isn't that my whole business strategy? Find neighborhoods where I'd like to do flips in. Maybe it's still 12, 24, 36 months away from really killing it, and let you capture that. That's what we do. Couldn't I have done that with this property? Remember, I'll send you this whole presentation. This house, to make it rental grade, only needed 15 grand, 20 grand. Couldn't I have done my little countertop magic? Paint them, new countertop sink fixture, new vinyl, paint the house, new toilet, new vinyl, refinish the surround, paint, new carpet, paint. It already had a brand new roof, brand new siding. I could have put new storm windows over those windows. $15,000, that baby would have been good to go. Right? I would have been into it 40, maybe sell it to you for 50, 55, and say, in a couple of years, you go spend 30 more on it and sell it for 130. That's all we're doing. So I figured out about a couple of years in that flipping to homeowners can be really unpredictable because you throw the house on the market and you're just hoping that somebody's ready to buy in that neighborhood on that street at that time. But if I'd be willing to control the whole process, control the construction, control the management, control the real estate brokerage, and manage those deals all the way through for investors, and spend the time that I could flip to investors like you. Because aren't I still just flipping houses to buy more for me? But I knew that I had to control all those things. Do I have control issues? Yes, probably. But when you control your environment all the way through, it makes it really easy to protect an investor from getting hurt. Because when you work with me, there's not going to be a contractor that steals from you. When you work with me, there won't be a realtor who lies and tells you, oh yeah, I can definitely sell it for that. Why would I do that after I've been managing, after I sold it to you? That's the beauty of our system. And when people see it, when other people see what we do, they're like, ugh, why would you want to go through all that? I said, well, now that we have it set up, it's a real easy way for me to make $3, $4, $5 million bucks a year. I'd rather have an easy $5 million a year than a stressful $20 million a year. Wouldn't you? And I made 40 grand. I know it's just more zeros, but it sounds stupid for me saying it, but yeah.
So how, or why did you decide to make that a homeowner flip, you know, make it nice?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. So there are some of you here this weekend that bought 3 properties, 4 properties, 5 properties, 8 properties. And I want, from the very beginning, within a few months, to make you money. Now, obviously, when you get rent, that's going to be making you money. So I take these flips. At any given time, I have 3 or 4 going. And I put, based on Megan's recommendation, her clients into those deals. So she had a client from Boston who had invested a bunch of money with us. I let them buy it for $25,000. She had another client from California who I had rehab it for $50,000. And then they split the deal 2/3, 1/3. I actually didn't make a penny off it. I found it. I bought it. I let them do the flip because I'd already made my money when they bought 8 houses and 4 houses from me. So I just give the flips to the investors who buy 3 or more houses. It's not like a fixed contract. It's just me saying, you know, 3 houses is a big commitment. You just spent 180 grand. You just spent $200,000 of your money with me. I appreciate that. And I want to make sure, because now think about it. Let's say you buy 3 houses or 4 houses or 5 houses. What's the chance that maybe we're going to have a tenant who's a pain in the butt? It goes up. What's the chance we're going to get a surprise repair? It goes up. But if you say, you know, yeah, but Aaron had me do this flip and we made $8,000 6 months later. Yeah, it sucks that that tenant bailed and we lost a couple months rent, but it's about the whole relationship. I like Aaron. I like working with him. One hand washes the other. He's there for us because he let me in on that flip. So we use the flips as just like marketing tools with our investors. Yeah.
Maybe you answered this before. I'm asking again. If an investor like us would buy a property from you, say 5, 10 years down the line, like sell it, would you make it, I guess?
Sure. For sure. Will we MLS it for you?
MLS it and also put it better?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, in fact, on Linden, on one of the buses I was on, I was talking about just down the street from this house on Linden, an investor from California, Lenny, I sold it to him 4 years ago, and he called me complaining about the tenant being late on rent. And I was like, I sold him that house, though, for, I want to say 60, maybe it was 50,000. But he was complaining and upset about the tenant, and I'm losing cash flow, and I'm like, hey, man, I just sold the house at 1124 for 130. I'll give you 50 for it today. He's like, oh, no, that's all right, bro. So I said, we can MLS it if you want. He's at 1418, and we're at 1124. He's at 1418 Linden. And, 1149. And, you know, he said, well, what am I going to need to spend? I said, probably $30,000, $35,000 because it's still rental grade. We got to do all that kind of stuff to it. And I sent him the pictures. And he said, no, actually, I'm going to wait. Guess that tenant thing's not so bad. But really, I mean, think about it. It really is. People forget. They obsess about the cash flow, but that's only a part of the picture. You get cash flow, yes, very important. Tax benefits, very important. Write-offs. And then appreciation. To me, they are all equally important. Because I write a check out at the end of the year to the IRS. Every dollar that I don't have to send to them is real money to me. Many of you are W-2s, so you've been getting fleeced your whole life. It's called take-home pay. You're the ones who get excited about a refund check. Be honest, I used to get really excited when I taught high school. Got my refund check coming, I'm going to spend it on this and pay down some debt. I'm so excited, I'm getting money back that I overpaid to the government. And what was the interest rate on that? 0. Now flip it. Year 2, 3, still 5-figure mindset. I didn't realize that I had to save some of these profits from these flips that I'm doing while I'm teaching high school. Because the first year I was okay, because I had enough write-offs from teaching, and I didn't owe. The second year, though, I put everything in TurboTax, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. It says negative $18,000. It's red. Will I go to jail if I don't pay? Will it trigger an audit if I don't pay? I remember my face getting flushed red. Actually, my ex-wife, I was coaching volleyball at the high school. She shows up at the gym. The look on her face, I thought someone had died. She's holding the print off from the from the TurboTax, and she shows it to me, and we go sit in the car, and she just sobs the whole way home because she knows that we don't have $18,000 in the account because I just had it all back in more deals. And I got the whole "look what you've done to our money" speech because she's thinking we didn't know. We're completely ignorant and uneducated about how it really works over at the IRS. Now, were we in danger of going to jail? Nope. Were we in danger of getting audited? No, we were both W-2 employees. Did we owe $18,000? Yes. Oh, yeah. So I call a friend of mine who's an accountant, and I said, I need you to look at my taxes. He comes back, and he was a little bit less. He was like 15, but we still owed because our income was pretty simple. So I said, well, what happens if I don't pay? I said, well, first thing I said, what happens if I don't file? He's like, you have to file. People who don't file tax returns are automatic, 2 or 3 years on the road, automatic trigger for audits. He's like, you have to file. I said, but then they're going to know I owe. He's like, yeah, they will know you owe. So I said, okay, well, let's file. So we file. And I said, well, how long, what happens if I don't pay it right now? Because the money's, he's like, where's the money? I said, in deals. I got all these flips lined up. My money, Dick Bundy's money, I'm just rolling, I said, the money's going to come in. And he says, all right, well, how long? And I said, well, how much? He said, what do you mean? I said, obviously there's a penalty. He's like, yeah. I said, well, how does that penalty work? He says, it builds up. I said, well, what if I go a full year? Do you know what the maximum penalty you can pay in penalties and fees on owed taxes is to the IRS? Anybody know? Wouldn't it be interesting to know that? Was to me, because now my investor brain was unafraid and I'm spinning, and I thought, I look it up, it's 25%. I'm like, well, that's only 2 points a month. That's not a penalty and fee, that's a hard money loan from the IRS. I said, that's only $300 a month on 15 grand? I'm looking at $3,600. I owe them 18. I'm going to make profit on one deal. So I go back to the accountant and I'm like, all right, so what if I wait 2 years? He's like, no, don't want to wait 2 years. I said, okay, so it's a year. And it's 2 points a month. That's my cost of capital. Because that's how I'm seeing it. Because there's no IRS police. There's no IRS Aaron's delinquent. IRS doesn't care if you claim that you owe. You file, you claim that you owe, and then you pay late fees. They love that. Think about that. I'm paying extra, and I owe. You know how much that lowers my trigger for an audit? Because the crooks claim they don't owe anything, right? Or they take refunds. So I said, well, man, my money's turning over every 4 to 6 months. I could do 2 more flips. I could cover what I owe for the taxes and the penalties on the first round, and then I could do a whole nother round of flips off the profits that I don't pay on. Do I have to pay taxes on those profits? Because it's profits off my taxes? Like, then it really becomes flux capacitor, right? It messes with your head. How do you claim it if it was money that you were supposed to pay, but then you didn't pay, but you reinvested it? I stay up nights thinking about these things. And every year since, I file right on time and delay almost a full year before I pay. So while you were jumping up and down for your zero interest loans to the IRS, you were loaning money to me because the budget still balanced that year. The federal bills got paid, didn't they? It was just with your cash that you prepaid. Isn't that interesting? Isn't there different rules about money? When you learn the rules, you can play within the rules, be legally within the rules. I watched the best clip the other night on YouTube. A first baseman, I can't remember if somebody has seen this clip, let me know. The first baseman catches the ball after the guy makes it to first plate, and then he grabs it with his left hand. The runner sees him make the motion, he fakes the throw. The runner steps off the plate to dust himself off, and he tags him out. Anybody else see that clip? And I was laughing. Now, was he cheating to do that? He was not cheating. There's no rule against fake throwing the ball back to the pitcher. Did the guy step off the plate? Yes, he did. Was he deceived? Sure he was. Did it violate the ethics of baseball? No. That's why it's a clip on YouTube, because the runner shouldn't have been such a knucklehead. And games are won and lost based on those kinds of stupid mistakes and carelessness. They really are. So you should have a deliberate reason for everything that you do. And I don't feel, I'm happy to pay a little bit of extra hard money loan to IRS. If I can make some more off it, I'm happy to pay extra. I'm always willing to pay my share, plus. Okay, yeah.
What about assigning, if you don't need the depreciation, can you assign it to someone else?
The depreciation on a house or the write-offs? Because you have depreciation is when you say, there's actually 2 things. So a write-off would be the property taxes, right? Let's say you pay $1,000 a year in property taxes, but you make $5,000 in rents. Then what the government says is you can write off the $1,000 in taxes, and you only have to pay taxes on the $4,000. Okay? Depreciation is where they'll say the lot's worth $50,000. Lot's worth $50,000. The house is worth $100,000. You can start to depreciate the value and take write-offs for that every year. They're actually both tax benefits: depreciation plus the write-offs against the rental income. Depreciation is where you take the value of the house, and then you take a write-off against what you owe in taxes every year. They're both write-offs against the income, just different kinds of write-offs. Like reassigned to? No. But what you can do is you can use it to write off all of your rental income. There's many times on a property, because of the repairs and the expenses that I have, that I didn't show any gain on the rents. The write-offs made it so I had no gain. Now, did I gain? Sure I did. Did I gain when I went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming to ski with my kids all weekend? Sure I did. Will I be able to write that off? Yep. Does that make sense? So you can't gift depreciation or expenses, but in some ways you kind of can, because if you have a partner, you can pass through losses from one LLC back to your S corp. So there's ways that you can benefit from that, but you can't donate it to someone who needs write-offs. But you can also carry losses forward. So if you had $20,000 in losses that you didn't know taxes, you still had $20,000 in write-offs you didn't take, you can carry those forward to a year when you do need them down the road. This is all keeping in mind that I am not a tax professional. I just play one on TV. that make sense? Okay. Yeah.
Do you have any people do flips with solo 401k money?
With solo 401k? Yeah, me. But yeah, a lot of people do flips. Now, I've heard a school of thought that it doesn't make sense to do flips inside your IRA. Totally disagree with it, but you know, I know that that's out there. Some people say you should only buy holds in it. Some people say you can get classed as a dealer. Chicken littleism.